There's a moment every Tarkov player remembers, even if they pretend they don't. It's not the first kill. It's not the first big loot run. It's not even the first time you get deleted by a name you never see. It's the first night you realise you're not playing a shooter. You're stuck somewhere. Somewhere that doesn't feel like a level. Somewhere that feels like a place people used to live before the lights went out. The wind in Tarkov doesn't sound like wind. It sounds like the city exhaling. It's slow, tired, like it's been holding its breath for years. And then the radio cracks. Not words, just static. Like the world is trying to talk, but can't remember how. That's the first truth you learn. Tarkov doesn't welcome you. It tests you. And it starts small. It always starts small. A doorway, a footstep, a shadow that moves wrong. You lift your weapon because you're scared, and then you feel it, the way fear rewires your thinking. Not what's the best play. What kind of person survives this? Before the gunfire, Tarkov was clean. Not perfect, nothing ever is, but clean enough to sell the dream. They built it like a promise. Corporate glass, fresh asphalt, security gates with bright paint, new warehouses, new offices, a new kind of money. A city dressed up for business made to look like the future. But the future doesn't arrive in Tarkov. It evaporates. Because the kind of place that attracts international power also attracts international secrets. And secrets don't rot quietly. They rot loud, eventually. You don't see the scandal. You don't see the first argument. You don't see the first meeting where someone decides a line has been crossed. Or you see other consequences. Barriers going up. Borders tightening. Checkpoints turning from security to control. And then, one day, the door closes. Not just on criminals, not just on mercenaries, on civilians, on families, on anyone unlucky enough to still be inside when the world decides you're no longer worth the risk. That's when Tarkov changes from city to a sentence. And the first time you understand that, you ask yourself something you never thought a game would make you ask. If the world seals a city and calls it containment, is that protection? Or is that permission to forget you existed? The men who arrive in Tarkov arrive with stories. Some say they're here to protect something. Some say they're here to expose something. Some say they're here because they were told to be. Tarkov does this thing. It strips your reasons down to bare bones. When the comms go dead, when command disappears, when the maps stop meaning what they're supposed to mean, ideology becomes a luxury. The first week you still say things like mission. The second week you stop saying it out loud. Because it starts to feel embarrassing, like pretending you're part of something bigger than the hunger in your gut. And you learn quickly. A uniform doesn't keep you safe. A patch doesn't feed you. And a flag doesn't stop the bleeding. So the contract men become something else. Not heroes. Not villains. Just people. People who make choices under pressure. People who say I had to. And in Tarkov, that phrase becomes a religion. Because once you say I had to, you can do almost anything and still sleep. As long as you don't look too closely at the cost. And here's the question Tarkov asks without ever speaking. If you can survive and stay good, but don't make it out, do you win? Or did you just die a clean death? There's a rumour that scavs are animals, that there are different species of human. They're lesser, desperate, laughing with cracked teeth. That rumor is comforting, because if scavs are monsters, then you don't have to wonder how close you are to becoming one. Tarkov doesn't create monsters. It creates conditions. Conditions where civilization becomes a memory, where the first guy to share food gets robbed, and the second guy to share food stops sharing. Where trust becomes expensive, where every kindness gets audited by survival. At first you hear them before you see them. Voices in the dark. Laughter that doesn't belong. Footsteps that don't hurry because they don't fear the rules anymore. And then you see the truth. They're not spawns. They're people who stayed too long. People who didn't have an exit. People who stopped waiting for rescue and started building a new life from scraps. That's a life made of barter, bullets, superstition, and violence. And you can hate them, sure. But Tarkov makes you ask the harder question. If you lived here long enough, what would your laugh sound like? In Tarkov, traders don't feel like merchants. They feel like something older, like priests. You bring offerings, metal, meds, keys, proof, and they give you permission to keep going. They don't ask how you're doing, they ask what you have. And you don't even notice when your relationship with them stops being business and starts being dependency. Because every time you come back alive, you feel grateful. Grateful for ammo, grateful for bandages, grateful for the smallest advantages. And that gratitude is dangerous, because it softens you into accepting the system. A system where your suffering becomes an economy, and one day you realise something that makes your stomach drop. If the people who profit from you in Tarkov are the ones guiding you deeper into Tarkov, are they actually helping you escape? Or are they just teaching you how to stay longer? Tarkov teaches you in ways no tutorial ever could. Not mechanics, habits. You start checking corners in real life. You start hearing footsteps in silence. You start treating every unknown sound like a threat. And slowly, quietly, Tarkov starts shaping your instinct. You stop thinking about winning as a scoreboard. You start thinking about winning as not losing. Not losing your kit. Not losing your time. And not losing your pride. And then it gets worse. Not losing your control. That's when Tarkov is at its most honest. Because Tarkov doesn't turn you into a killer by giving you weapons. It turns you into a killer by making violence feel like the simplest answer. And it asks you a question it never has to say out loud. At what point does doing what you have to do stop being a moment and become who you truly are? And for a long time, Tarkov was a loop. Raid, die, learn, repeat. Almost like the city was training you. Like it was building a version of you that could survive forever, as long as you never asked for closure. Now, the shape changes. Now there's a road. It's not a friendly one. It's certainly not an easy one, but a road that points forward. And suddenly the title stops being a taunt and becomes a threat. Escape, not survive, not get rich, not win fights, but escape. Because escape is different. Escape implies there's something beyond Tarkov, and that Tarkov might not want you to see it. So you follow the threads. You move through doors that feel like they've been locked for a reason. You step into corridors where the air tastes wrong. And every step forward feels less like progression and more like exposure. Like you're getting closer to something that has been waiting in the dark this whole time. And you start to wonder, is the story you're chasing meant to be solved? Or is it meant to be buried, with you still inside? There's a scene that plays out the same way in every Tarkov player, even if the details change. You're hurt, you're heavy, you're close. The extract is there, somewhere ahead, like a finish line you don't fully believe in because Tarkov trained you not to. Your breathing is loud, your hearing is too sharp, your hands are too steady for how scared you are. And that's when Tarkov gives you the cruelest gift. Time to think. Not about your next fight. Not about your loot. About yourself. Because if you really can leave, you have to face what you became to earn it. You remember the bodies you stepped over, the people you didn't trust, the times you shot first because you didn't want to be the one on the ground again. And a thought creeps in. Quiet. Quite poisonous. What if Tarkov doesn't end when you escape? What if Tarkov is something you carry? Then the final question lands, and it lands hard. If escape requires you to sacrifice pieces of yourself, what exactly is the thing you're saving? So when the city finally opens its hand, just enough for you to slip through, you realise the real ending isn't an extract, it's a mirror. Because Tarkov doesn't only measure your aim, it measures your fear, your patience, your greed, your empathy. And whether you admit it or not, it changes you. So when the gate opens and the air on the other side feels different, ask yourself, who is walking out? The person you were when you first loaded in, or the person Tarkov needed you to become? And then, far behind you, like a memory you'll never fully erase, a distant gunshot cracks the air. Not close, not dangerous, just enough to remind you the city is still there, still hungry, still waiting for the next person who thinks they're just playing a game. So what does Tarkov mean to you? The loot you carried out, or the part of yourself you had to leave behind to survive it? My name is XB. I love to turn video games into stories. So if you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing. As always, take it easy.